Alright. Today we're looking at politics1.com, directories of all political parties in the United States. First of all, we have the two major parties, the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. Everybody knows those two. Everybody knows those two. So I'm not even going to read those two. Then we have the big three third parties. The big three third parties are the Constitution Party, the Green Party of the United States, and the Libertarian Party. I am going to read you the synopsis that it gives me for every one of these parties. Constitution Party is strongly pro-life, anti-gun control, anti-tax, anti-immigration, trade protectionist, anti-New World Order, anti-United Nations, anti-gay, anti-welfare, and pro-school prayer. Former Nixon administration official and one-time Conservative Coalition Chair Howard Phillips founded the party's originally named the U.S. Taxpayer Party in 1992. The USTP renamed itself the Constitution Party in 1999, but only in a small number of states. The party received a brief boost in the media when conservative U.S. Senator Bob Smith of New Hampshire, an announced GOP presidential hopeful, bolted from the Republican Party to seek the Constitution Party nomination in 2000. But the erratic Smith quit the Constitution Party race a few weeks later and rejoined the GOP. At the 1999 National Convention, the party narrowly adopted a controversial change to the platform's preamble, which declared that the foundation of our political passion and moving principles of our political activity is our full submission and unshakable faith in our Savior and Redeemer, our Lord Jesus Christ. Although the party officially invites all citizens of all faiths to become active in the party, any national candidate seeking the party's nomination is explicitly required to tell the convention of any areas of disagreement with the party's platform. In 2012, former GOP Congressman Virgil Goody was the party's presidential nominee. Longtime party activist and attorney Darrell Castle from Memphis, Tennessee, was the CP's 2006 presidential nominee, and he got my vote. Controversial coal mining magnate Don Blankenship, a former GOP U.S. Senate candidate in West Virginia, is the party's current 2020 presidential candidate. The Green Party of the United States. The Green Party, the informal U.S. affiliate of the leftist environmentalist European Greens movement, is one of the largest third parties in the nation. The Greens support strict environmental protection laws, stronger labor rights, expanded social programs, to higher taxes on wealthy and corporations. The party regularly fields candidates for local, state, federal offices in many states and has established active state affiliate parties in nearly all states. The Greens scored a major political points when it convinced prominent consumer advocate Ralph Nader to run as the first presidential nominee in 1996, spending just over $5,000. Nader was on the ballot in 22 states and carried 700,000 votes. In his anti-corporate campaign message, Nader ignored pleas from liberal Democrats that he abandoned the race because he was siphoning essential votes away from Al Gore's campaign. In the end, Nader was on the ballot in 44 states and finished third. Until 2001, the Greens were largely a collection of fairly autonomous, state-local-based political entities with only a weak and sometimes splintered national leadership structure that largely served to coordinate electoral activities. In 2001, the party officially converted into a formal unified national party organization. Physician and progressive activist Jill Stern was the Green Party nominee in 2012 and 2016. Official Green Party links include Global Green Network, GPUS, Black Caucus, Lavender Green Caucus, Atlantics Caucus, and Young Eco-Socialists. Libertarian Party. The LP, founded in 1971, bills itself as America's largest third party, and along with the Greens are definitely among the two largest third parties in the nation. The Libertarians are neither left nor right. They believe in total individual liberty, pro-drug legalization, pro-gay, pro-homeschooling, pro-gun rights, generally pro-choice, etc. But I know a lot of Libertarians that are pro-life, actually. And total economic freedom, anti-welfare, anti-government, regulation on business, anti-minimum wage, anti-income tax, pro-free trade. The LP espouses a classical laissez-faire ideology, which they argue means more freedom, less government, and lower taxes. Over 400 LP members currently hold various, though fairly low-level, government offices, including the lots of minor appointed officials like school district facilities, task force member, and town recycling committee member. In 2020, outgoing GOP Congressman Justin Amash changed his resignation to Libertarian, making him the LP's first member to officially sit in the U.S. House. The LP's biggest problem, former Congressman Ron Paul and Paul Brown, humorist journalist P.J. O'Rourke, the Republican Liberty Caucus, and others in the GOP who attract ideological libertarians into the political arena by arguing that they can bring about libertarian change more easily under the Republican label. In 2012, former GOP New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson was LP president nominee and had ballots in 48 states. The party's 2016 ticket featured again Gary Johnson, joined this time by former GOP Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld as his VP. Johnson Weld produced the best finish in the history of the party. Johnson, however, proved to be an unfocused and undisciplined candidate, and he seemingly squandered an opportunity to perform significantly better. The LP has active affiliate parties in every state. The party has been divided for years between two fighting factions, the more purist hardcore libertarian group and the more moderate reform faction. The hardcore group are uncompromising anarchist libertarians in the Ayn Rand mold. By contrast, the moderates, like Gary Johnson, are interested in focusing on only a handful of more popular issues, such as drug discrimination, gun rights, tax cuts, etc. In exchange for attracting a larger number of voters, allies of the hardcore faction firmly held control of the party from the 1990s until the moderates seized control at the 2006 National Convention and somewhat softened the party's platform. Other related LP sites include the LP News, Campus Libertarians, and LPedia. And here are smaller third parties, like the Alliance Party. And these are parties that have actually done good either historically or have had, people elected in their parties in various different positions. After those, there are other parties. And the other parties are ones that have yet to field any candidates into office. So we will look at the smaller third parties. Like the Alliance, and many of these are socialist, communist, Nazi, fascist type parties, but not all of them. But there are a lot of small third parties that are of that nature. The Alliance Party. The Alliance Party launched in 2018, formed by fiscal conservative, social moderate centrists who had been Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and third party members. The modern Whig Party, American Moderates Party, and the South Carolina American Party folded into it, who were upset with the dysfunctional caused by the status quo, political gridlock, and the toxic national political divide. They explained America's need not be adversaries or combatants. In reality, we are all pursuing a personal American dream, and we are allies in our collective pursuits of a more perfect union. The party supports free trade, reducing national debt, a strong military, affordable health care initiatives to combat climate change, gay equality, immigration, gun rights, with limited constitutionally reasonable regulation. Whatever that means. Better care for veterans and emphasis on renewable energy and term limits. While still very small, the party has active affiliates in many states and fielded candidates in 2020. Frequent candidate Rocky De La Fonte, who has run over the years under many different party banners, is the Alliance's 2020 presidential nominee. The American Freedom Party. The American Freedom Party, originally named American Third Position or A3P, is a white supremacist political party. They prefer to call themselves white nationalists, founded in 2010. In various political statements, the AFP stated its mission is to represent white Americans for the political arena. This racist party engulfs a non-interventionist foreign policy, calls for strict controls on non-white immigration to the U.S., and touts the slogan "Diversity is a code word for white genocide." The party began fielding candidates on the ballot in 2011. The AFP nominated white supremacist active Merlin Miller for president in 2012, and he achieved ballot status in 3 states. The party's 2016 nominee is elderly white supremacist Bob Whitaker, who failed to achieve any ballot status and captured too few write-in votes to even be tailored by states. The party embraces the neo-Nazi alt-right label. The American Independent Party. Governor George Wallace, Democrat of Alabama, founded the AP and ran as the first presidential nominee in 1968, running on a fairly populist, white-ring, anti-Washington, anti-racial integration, anti-communist platform. Wallace returned to the Democratic Party. Wallace carried nearly 10 million votes, which is damn good, and won 5 southern states, which is also damn good. Although Wallace returned to the Democratic Party in 1970, the AIP continued to live on, but moved even further to the right. The 1972 AP nominee, John Birch, Society leader, which the John Birch Society is a real good society, by the way, and Congressman John G. Shimitz, Republican from California, carried nearly 1.1 million votes. And that was back in 1972. The 1976 AIP presidential nominee was former Governor Lester Maddox, a Democrat of Georgia, which is an unrepentant segregationist, but he fell far below Shimitz's vote total. The AIP last fielded its own national presidential candidate in 1980. White supremacist former Congressman John Rannick, Democrat of L.A., Louisiana, who carried 41,000 votes since the mid-1980s. AIP has only operated and fielded candidates in California from 92 to 2007. The AIP was a state affiliate party of the National Constitution Party, but it is entirely independent today of any national parties. The party fielded a few write-in candidates in 2014 and endorsed Donald Trump in 2016 in lieu of funding a candidate. So they're pro-Donald Trump. American Solidary Party. The American Solidary Party is founded upon the Catholic social teaching. They're basically the Catholic Party, the party of Catholicism. So they're a religious party, too. The party is pro-life, anti-death penalty, pro-welfare, anti-gay marriage, pro-universal health care, pro-environmental protection, and anti-military, selective service draft. The ASP also wants to cut income taxes on earned wages while increasing taxes on investment income and corporations. The ASP supports increased banking regulation, wants to end energy and agricultural subsidies, supports clean energy, backs together environmental protections, opposes military interventionism, imposes U.S. arms sales to foreign governments, and is anti-pornography, supports a focus on rehabilitation versus arrests for narcotics, and is pro-labor unions. The ASP 2016's presidential nominee was Mike Matrine, who achieved ballot status in one state and write-in status in other states, several states. Retired teacher Brian Carroll is the ASP 2020's presidential nominee. The ASP is now trying to establish a few state affiliates and has a Facebook page. America's Party. Former ambassador and frequent GOP presidential candidate Alan Keyes created this party in 2008 after he quit the Republican race for president and failed to win the Constitutional Party's nomination. Originally named America's Independent Party, they shortened the name to America's Party in 2011. The party espouses a social, Christian, conservative platform, pro-life, no exceptions, anti-gay rights, pro-gun rights, pro-strong military, peace through strength, pro-Iraq war, anti-tax, supports total repeal of the federal income tax, opposes federal spending on any programs not explicitly authorized by the U.S. Constitution. In 2008, Keyes was on the ballot in 3 states as the party's presidential nominee and captured a total of 47,768 votes. In a directly related coup, this party wrestled control of the American Independent Party of California away from the Constitution Party. This capturing ballot status is the state for the 2008-2010 elections. Interestingly, the party does not accept any financial donations. Party National Chair Tom Halling was the year's 2006 presidential nominee. The party does not intend to field their own presidential nominee in 2020. But with their stance, they're more likely to endorse Trump over any other one. That's what I think. The Citizens Party, not to be, or they're going to endorse the Constitutional Party's candidate. That's their option. The Citizens Party, not to be confused with the Progressive Party by the same name in the 1980s. This new Citizens Party was launched in 2004 as the New American Independent Party in 2011. Party changed its name to Citizens Party. The CP vows to become a national entity. CP describes their ideology as pragmatic mixture of what might appear to be liberal, moderate, and conservative views. The party supports fair trade, reciprocity and opposes free trade policies, the NAFTA, CAFTA, and World Trade Organization. They support gun ownership rights, support gay marriage, and is pro-choice, wants tougher anti-cruelty laws, supports legalizing medical assisted suicide, wants to create, that's also known as euthanasia, supports gun ownership rights, supports gay marriage, is pro-choice, wants tougher animal cruelty laws, supports legalizing medically induced suicide, euthanasia, wants to create tax incentives to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. and protect the U.S. family farms, opposed the Wall Street bailout, and opposes a neoconservative foreign policy. To date, the party has only ballot qualified one candidate under its name, a Pennsylvania state legislative candidate in 2006. Now, here's where we start some of the communist and socialist, Nazi, fascist type parties. The Communist Party USA, the Communist Party, once the slavish propaganda tool and spy network for the Soviet Central Committee, experienced a forced transformation in recent years. Highly classified Soviet Politburo records made public after the fall of the Soviet communism in 1990s revealed the Communist Party of the Soviet Union illegally funneled millions of dollars into CPUSA to finance its activities from the 1920s to the 1980s. The flow of Soviet dollars to CPUSA came in an abrupt halt when the Soviet communists were ousted from power in 1991, ultimately causing the total overhaul of the CPUSA activities. Founded in 1924, the CPUSA reached its peak vote total in 1992 with nominee William Z. Foster. The last national CPUSA ticket, headed by Stalinist Gus Hall and 60s radical activist Angela Davis, was fielded in 1984. While the party has not directly run any candidates since the late 1980s, the CPUSA sometimes backs some candidates in various local elections, often in northeastern industrial communities, and engages in grassroots political and labor union organization. As for issues, the CPUSA calls for free universal health care, elimination of federal income tax on people earning under $60,000 a year, free college education, drastic cuts in military expenses, massive public works programs, the outlawing of scabs and union busting, abolition of corporate monopolies, public ownership of energy and basic industry, huge tax hikes for corporations, and abolition of corporate monopolies, public ownership of energy and base industries, huge tax hikes for corporations and the wealthy, various other programs designed to beat the power of the capitalist class and promote anti-imperialist freedom struggles around the world. The CPUSA, underlining Marxist ideology, remains strong. However, it has evolved now after the death of Hall in 2000 into a Gorbachev-style democratic reform communist movement headed by activist Sam Webb. Under Webb's leadership, the CPUSA now touts a platform of the Democratic Socialists and trade unionism, and frequently encourages votes for the Democrat presidential nominee as a pragmatic electoral tactic to defeat conservatives. Official CPUSA websites include the People's Word, Party newspaper, and Political Affairs Monthly Party magazine. Freedom Socialist Party. That's an oxymoron because with socialism, you're not going to be having you can't have freedom of socialism. The FSP was formed in 1966 by a splinter group of dissident feminist Trotskyist who broke away from the Socialist Workers' Party to create a new party in the tradition of Max Engels, Lenin, and Trotsky. Anyway, the FSP has always emphasized black liberation and social feminism. The reason radical socialist feminists. Thus, the reason radical women is an official alternate name, and by the FSP. The FSP described themselves as a revolutionary socialist feminist organization dedicated to the replacement of capitalist rule by genuine workers' democracy that will generate full economic, social, political, and legal equality to women, people of color, gays, and all who are exploited, oppressed, and are repelled by the profit system and its offshoot imperialism. The FSP has occasionally fielded a handful of local candidates in Washington, California, and New York, often in nonpartisan elections. The FSP also fielded the first presidential candidate in 2020, socialist activist Stephen Durham, who ran as a write-in when he failed to achieve ballot status in any state. No candidates in 2016. Official FSP links include Freedom Socialist newspaper and Red Letter Press book publishers. The Independent Party. This small centrist party was founded in 1976. Although they show no political footprint before 2010, the tip claimed to affinity descendants of the small toleration party of the early 1800s. Their stances are largely platitudes. Example, we work and advocate for progress on political and social issues, have adopted policies and representation by our elected officials, deemed fiscal responsibility and transparency by our servants of the people. TIP's party platform is short but rather incomprehensible. The party fielded roughly a dozen federal and state candidates in 6 states in 2018 and is running Terry Willock for president in 2020. The Independent American Party. The small Independent American Party has existed for years in several western states with an ideology grounded in conservative Mormon, so it's the Mormon Christian political party. Mormon political beliefs. In fact, the unaffiliated IAP state party. Dang it. In fact, the party's name is derived from a 1844 Mormon prophecy by Moses Hancock, converting the unaffiliated IAP state party organization, united by a common religious right ideology similar to the Constitution Party but for Mormons, into a national IAP organization was the effect stated in 1998 by members of Utah IAP, Idaho IAP, and Nevada IAP. Subsequently, affiliated with the fledgling USIAP in 98. Since then, the party has established small chapters in some other states, but shows no real signs of any real growth. The bulk of the IAP activities remain concentrated in Utah, Nevada, and Oregon. The various IAP state parties endorsed Constitutional Party nominee Howard Phillips for president in 1996 and 2000. In December 2000, IAP's national chairman issued a statement noting third parties in general registered a dismal performance in the presidential election and questioned the IAP's future participation in presidential campaigns. Instead, he suggested that the IAP limit itself to congressional, state, and local races in the future. The party continually fields numerous candidates each election year in Utah and Nevada. Army veteran and frequent candidate Cal Koptic was the IAP's presidential nominee in 2016. Life and Liberty Party. Founded in 2019, dissident leaders from the Constitution Party, the Life and Liberty Party is a coalition of parties across the nation. Centered on the Constitution of the United States of America and upholding the rule of law, the party is uncompromisingly pro-life, no exceptions, and anti-euthanasia, supports environmental protection laws, and is otherwise somewhat libertarian conservative on the issues. Currently, the Alaska and South Dakota Constitution parties disqualified from the national CP and now affiliate with the L&L party. The party also has an active affiliate in Arkansas. Party co-founder J.R. Myers is the L&L presidential nominee in 2020 and has already secured ballot status in at least one state. The National Progressive Party. This Vermont Progressive Party, which has existed since 1982 and successfully elected candidates by statewide office, launched the national entity in 2020, right after the end of U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential candidate. As in Vermont, the NPP is a Democratic Socialist Party closely aligned with the politics of Bernie. We're planting the seeds of winning new party, taking no corporate money and championing economic, social, and environmental justice as how the party described themselves in 2020. The Sanders presidential run ended. Not yet clear what the national strategy is on when they expect to expand into other states. So basically, it's Bernie Brothers Party. The Party for Socialism and Liberation, another socialist party. The Party of Socialism and Liberation, or the PSL, is apparently called a revolutionary Marxist party, the Marxist Party. Created to be a vehicle for multinational working class in the struggle for socialism, only a multinational party can create the unity necessary to defeat the most powerful capitalist class the world has ever seen. We aim for revolution in the United States. We want a revolution, and we work hard to make it happen. Additionally, PSL explains that the most crucial requirement for PSL membership is the dedication to undertake the most important and most necessary of all tasks, break away building a new revolution workers' party in the heart of world imperialism. The PSL was founded in 2006 by a breakaway fraction of the Communist Revolutionary Wing of the Workers' World Party. The PSL exposes a pro-Cuba, pro-China view and the iconic Che Guevara's call for continual world revolution against capitalism. The PSL fielded its first candidates in 2008, presidential ticket and congressional candidates. Longtime Marxist revolutionary activist Gloria La Riva was again the PSA's presidential nominee in 2016, making her seventh time on a presidential ticket. And it's again the PSL's presidential nominee in 2020. PSL also sponsors and or directs numerous popular front groups, including People's Power Assemblies, International Action Center, Congress of Resistance, and many other. The party's official newspaper is Liberation, and the PSL's campaign website is, of course, votepsl.org. The Peace and Freedom Party. I believe this is the Pacifist Party. Founded in the 1960s and a left-wing party opposed to the Vietnam War, the party reached its peak of support in 1968 when it nominated Black Panther leader Eldridge Cleaver for president. Although a convicted felon, Cleaver captured nearly 37,000 votes. Cleaver ultimately became a Reagan Republican in the early 1980s and was later a crack cocaine addict in the late 1980s also, before emerging as an environmental activist in the late 1990s. Famed baby doctor Benjamin Spock, a socialist, pacifist, and staunch opponent of the Vietnam War, was the PFP's presidential nominee in 1972. Since then, the small party was largely dominated by a baffling faction of Marxist-Leninists aligned with the Communist Workers' World Party, which later split into the Militant Revolutionary Party of Socialism and Liberation. See above, PSL. Tostokness and true democratic socialism, the PFP today is a small, self-described feminist socialist party with activists centered only in California. In 1996, the PFP successfully blocked an attempt by the WWP to capture the PFP's presidential nomination for their party's nominee in a sign of a party's serious decline in the support of the PFP's poor showing in 1998 statewide elections caused the party to lose its California ballot status. The PFP finally regained California ballot in 2003 and immediately failed a sizable state of candidates in 2008. The party, yet consumer activist Ralph Nader used their California ballot line in support of his independent run for president in 2009. The party announced plans to try expanding into a nationwide electoral dedicated to socialism, feminism, democracy, environmentalism, and racial equality. The communist PSL candidates captured several key PFP statewide candidate nominations in California in 2003, but then lost control again in 2003 when the PFP nominated comic actress Roseanne Barr for president. This is something I never knew, that Roseanne Barr actually ran for president. Barr was on the ballot in 3 states, which is not too bad. The PFP did not fill their own ticket in 2016, instead endorsed the nominee of the PSL. Ye matey, it's time for the parent party. The U.S. Parent Party is the U.S. affiliate of the European-based Pirate Party's international umbrella group, a global movement founded in 2006 with affiliates active in nearly 70 nations. The USPP was founded the same year. The various pirate parties support reform of copyright laws and reflect open source and cultural values, government transparency, protection of piracy and civil liberties, rolling back corporate personhood and corporate welfare, evidence-based policy, and egalitarianism and matriosity. Based on the hacker elite, we support the legislation of sharing movies, music, and online art culture, so our opponents would call us the Pirate Party anyway. We feel it's better to reclaim that name. Historical pirate ships had a tradition of egalitarian radical democracy and provided a refuge for social outcasts and escaped slaves from a society unfriended to them. We're anti-establishment, so pirates declaring mutiny seems like a good metaphor for us. We believe politics and activism have a sense of humor while are being dead serious. They playfully explained the USPP began fielding political candidates in 2012. USPP has active chapters in at least a few states. The Prohibition Party. If you are a reform-minded conservative and a non-drinker, the Prohibition Party wants you, exclaimed an official party message in 2002. The Prohibition Party, founded in 1869, and billing themselves as America's oldest third party, espouses a generally ultra-conservative Christian social agenda mixed with anti-drug and international anti-communist views. The party's strongest showing was in 1892, when the former Congressman John Bridwell received nearly 273,000 votes. The late longtime Prohibition Party's leader, Errol Dodge, the party's six-time presidential nominee, scored the all-time low for the party. Party newsletter editor Jim Hughes, a fellow Pennsylvania town tax assessor, was the party's 2016 presidential nominee. The party nominated neo-Confederate, Confederacy, Bill Baines of Mississippi State, Mississippi, the party's 2006 VP nominee for president in 2020. Baines' Confederate belief there is no single legitimate United States, but rather that each U.S. state is a separate sovereign nation, proved too internally controversial within a few months. Bayer's nomination caused such an intense rift that he quit as the nominee, claiming he was being sabotaged. The party nomination caused such an internal rift that he quit as nominee, claiming he had been sabotaged. The party nominated one of the traditional religious right-style candidates, party activist C.L. Connie Gannon, as the 2023 president's replacement nominee. The Prohibition Party also fields one of two local candidates from time to time. Additional party-related websites are Partisan Prohibition Historical Society and the Facebook Prohibition Party page. Reform Party, one of the rapidly growing and populist third parties. Reform Party first shifted far to the right during 1999-2000, before imploding into insignificant due to the functioning infighting. After the shift, it quickly experienced massive waves of conservative defections away into the Constitution Party and the American First Party in 2006, before withering into an insignificant shadow of its former glory years. First, some history. After running as an independent in 92, billionaire Texas businessman Ross Perot founded the Reform Party in 95 as his vehicle for converting his independent movement into a permanent political party in 96. Perot ran as Reform Party's presidential nominee. The party originally reflected Perot's center conservative fiscal policies and anti-GATT NAFTA views, while avoiding taking any official positions on social issues. The Reform Party was plagued by a lengthy period of nasty ideological battles in 1998 to 2000 involving three main rival groups: the old guard Perot faction, the more libertarian Jesse Ventura faction, and a social conservative Pat Buchanan faction. After several nasty and public battles, the Ventura faction quit the Reform Party in 2000, and the Buchanan faction gained control of the party's $12.6 million in federal matching funds. Along with Buchanan's rise to power in the party made a ideological shift to the right and ideological realignment that continues to dominate the tiny RP today. And the aftermath of the 2000 election, it was clear that Buchanan failed in his efforts to establish a viable conservative third-party organization. Buchanan was on the ballot in 49 states, which is really good to be on the ballot in 49 states. And later told reporters his foray into third-party politics was likely a mistake. In 2002, the party splintered further, losing most of its conservative activists to other white-ring third parties. The Reform Party was just about bankrupt by the 2004, having less than $50 remaining in his bank account. Businessman Rocky De La Fontaine, who also ran as independent candidate in some states, was the party's 2006 nominee. A few isolated state party affiliates remain active, fielding candidates from time to time. Fielding candidates. I don't know why I keep saying feeding when I mean fielding. The Social Democrats of the USA. The SDUSA has only fielded candidates for a local office and has been only normally active since the 1980s. The SDUSA is a small group, more ideologically centrist, staunchly anti-communist, leftist, and or more directly aligned with the Democratic Party in the 70s and 80s than the more traditional leftist Democrat Socialists of America. In fact, the views of the SPUSA in 1972 support the more 1972 caused the DSA, then named the SOC, to splinter away in an ideological rift. The SDUSA refused to support George McGovern for president that year because of the opposition to the Vietnam War versus the DSOC, which supported McGovern and an immediate end to the war. SDUSA also disputes the claims of DSA and SPUSA to be the true heirs of the legacy of Eugene Debs and Norman Thomas, claiming instead that the SDUSA is the only legitimate successor to the party of Dobbs and Thomas. However, by 2010, SDUSA eventually ceded all rights to the name Socialist Party USA to the SPUSA. And interestingly, retired SPUSA National Chair and two-time presidential nominee David McReynolds now writes columns for the SDUSA's website. The Socialist International stripped SDUSA of full member status in 2006 during SDUSA by a default organization. The SDUSA remnant, which still functions, was a mere shell of what it once was several decades ago. SDUSA began a recognized process in 2009 with a new leadership plan. SDUSA held a nation convention in 2012 and is currently focused on rebuilding the group. Socialist Party USA, the SPUSA, are true Democrat Socialists advocating left-wing electoral change versus militant revolutionary change. Many of the SP members could easily be members of the left-wing faction of the Democratic Party. Unlike most of the other political parties of this page, with socialists in their names, the SP has always been staunchly anti-communist. The original Socialist Party USA was founded by labor union leader, ex-Democratic elected official, and pacifist Eugene V. Debs. In 1900, the SP was once a mighty national third party. Debs himself was the SP nominee for president 5 times between 1900s and 1920s. Debs received over 900,000 votes. In 1912, the SP's best showing ever, former minister and journalist Norman Thomas was the SP presidential nominee 6 times between 1928 and 1948. His best showing being 883,000 votes. In 1932, the SP also elected congressmen, mayors, and other officials throughout the 20th century, largely during the 1910s through 1950s. The party withered and splintered so much that by the 1972, it barely existed. The Democratic Socialists of America and the Social Democrats USA, both linked above, are the splinter groups from the original Debs-Thomas SP entity. Activists from the SP reconstituted the party in 1976 and began to again field SPUSA national tickets for the first time in over 2 decades. SPUSA activist Eduardo Miami Soliski was the party's presidential nominee in 2016. The party's youth-wing Young People's Socialist League has been existent since the early 1960s. Other SPUSA sites are Socialist National Committee, VoteSocialist.org, campaign candidates, and the Socialists. Socialist Action! Social Action is a Trotskyist political party of revolutionary socialists originally founded in 1983 by exiled members of the Socialist Workers' Party, and the SA shares the Socialist Workers' Party's pro-Cuba views. The SA still tries to retain its Trotsky ideology roots, wherein the SWP, which has drifted away from Trotskyism towards a Soviet authoritarian communist ideology. The SA states that they oppose the Democrats and Republicans, all capitalist political parties, and all capitalist governments and their representatives everywhere, and Stalinist and neo-Stalinist regimes from the ex-Soviet Union to China. The Communist Party has fielded some local political candidates in the San Francisco Bay Area over the years, and ran the first organized party. Ran the first congressional candidate in 2010 in Connecticut. The party fielded SA National Secretary Jeff Meckler as the 2016 presidential nominee, but he was just a write-in hopeful as he failed to qualify in the ballot in every state. Meckler is again the party's presidential nominee in 2020. Other official sites are Youth for Socialist Action and Vote Socialist Action. Socialist Alternative Party. Told you there was a lot of socialist type parties. Yeah. Socialist Alternative, founded in 1986, same year I was born, and originally named the Labor Militant, split from the Labor Party in the 1990s in order to pursue a more radical leftist and anti-globalization party. The party is the U.S. member of the Committee for Workers International, or CWI, an international association of Trotskyist political parties. Nearly 50 nations, so-called, is not as radical as some Marxist parties, as they espouse democratic socialism and have formed alliances of convenience and non-socialists for the political advantage. For example, the party backed Ralph Nader, the Green Party, for president in each of his 4 runs because they thought his candidacy would help accelerate the trend of disintegration of the two-party system. The party wants to build a socialist mass workers movement and critical of the Leninist-Stalinist historical dictatorships as the provision of true Marxism. The party supports a $15 national minimum wage, universal free health care, a guaranteed $500 a week minimum income for all public ownership of major banks, forcing bankrupt companies into public ownership, free college education, and slashing the military budget in a major upset in 2013. Kashmir Swavant became the first party member to win an election when she won a seat on the Seattle City Council. And another candidate nearly won a seat on the Minneapolis City Council on the same day. The party currently has chapters in a dozen states. The Socialist Equality Party. Socialist Equality Party, or SEP, was originally named the Workers' League, or the WL. The WL was founded in 1966 as a Trotskyist communist group closely associated with the electoral campaigns of the Socialist Workers' Party. The goal of these Trotskyist groups was to build a working-class labor party in the U.S. affiliated with the International Committee of the Fourth International, the global Trotskyist umbrella network. They believe the egalitarian and international legacy of the Russian Revolution could have succeeded but was betrayed by Stalinism and is its progeny. When the Socialist Workers, the SWP, drifted away from Trotskyianism in the early 1980s, the WL broke with the SWP and began fielding its own candidates. The WL fielded first presidential ticket in 1984. WL later renamed itself as the Socialist Equality Party in 1994. The WL fielded the first presidential ticket in 1984. Skipping stuff. I'm repeating stuff. Damn it. Renamed itself Socialist Equality in 1994. The Michigan-based SEP regularly fields congressional and local candidates. Mainly in Michigan and Ohio, the SEP is very realistic, and its candidates acknowledge a campaign is an opportunity to present a socialist alternative to the derogatory and lies of establishment parties and mass media. Frequent SEP presidential nominee Jerry White was again the Party's nominee in 2016. The SCP's new site, World Socialist website, is updated daily with articles, analysis, history, etc., written with a hardcore internationalist Wisconsin perspective. The Socialist Workers' Party, originally a pro-Tuscany faction within the Communist Party, the SWP was formed in 1938 after the Communist Party, acting on orders from Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin, expelled the American Tuscany. The Socialist Workers' Party was many years the leading voice of Tuscanism in the USA. Since the 1980s, the SWP rapidly shifted away from Tuscanism and embraced the band of authoritarian communist politics espoused by the Soviet Union and former Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. The SWP site described Communist Cuba's shining examples for all workers during that ideology shift. The SWP expelled the Socialist faction in 1983, which led to the founding of the rival Socialist Action Party. SWP has run candidates for president in every election since 1948, plus many federal, state, and local candidates nationwide. The SWP best electoral showing was in 1976 when presidential nominee Peter Carrero captured 95,000 votes. Note Camaro was expelled from the SWP in 1980 for embracing democratic socialism. Communist political organization Allison Kennedy was the SWP's candidate in 2016. An interesting quirk is that the SWP requires all members to be protestarians by having them take factory jobs for tolerance in order to advocate for the worker-based communist class struggle. The party's weekly newspaper, The Militant, which was launched in 1928 and predates the SWP, is the party's only online presence. The SWP also owns a book publishing house called Pathfinder Press. The United States Pacifist Party. This is the other Pacifist Party. The tiny political party fielded party founder Bedford Litt as a write-in candidate for president in 1996, 2000 to 2004, and 2012, and ran the U.S. Senate Congress candidate in Colorado in 1998. In 2008, for the first time, Little achieved ballot states in one state, a feat he again matched in 2016. The USPP opposes military action in all circumstances, and wants to transform the U.S. military into a non-violent defense and humanitarian service corps. USPP platform advocates generally left-wing political stances and slashing the military budget to zero. The Unity Party of America. The small centrist political party was founded after 2004 elections and the first decade. The party was only active in Colorado and began fielding candidates there starting in 2006. 2016, the party began expanding, launching small affiliates in some states and voting to field a presidential ticket. 2020, the party supports a balanced budget, constitutional amendment, federal term limits, replacing federal income tax with other resource service, development of clean alternative energy sources, and ending gerrymandering by having all electoral districts drawn by nonpartisan panels of judges. The Workers' World Party, or WWP, was formed in 1959 by a pro-Chinese communist faction that split from the Socialist Workers' Party. Although the WWP theoretically supports workers' revolutions, the WWP supported the Soviet actions that created workers' uprising in Hungary in the 1950s. Czechoslovakia in the 1960s and Poland. In the early 1980s, the WWP was largely an issue-oriented revolutionary party until the fabled their first but not hot air first candidate for president in 1980. The militant WWP believes that capitalist democracy is producing nothing but hot air and that the power of the workers and oppressed in the streets and in Washington. FBI Director Louis French attacked the WWP in the May 2001 remarks for a U.S. Senate committee. Anarchists and extreme socialist groups, many of which, such as the Workers' World Party, have a international presence and at times also represent a potential threat to the United States. Of rioting and street violence, the more revolutionary wing of the WP broke away from 2000 and formed the Party of Socialism and Liberation, or the PSL. After the WWP PSL split, the WWP failed to fill a presidential ticket in 2008 and in 2012. In 2016, the party nominated longtime party activist Monica Moorhead for president. Moorhead was previously the WWP's presidential nominee in 1996 and 2000. The official news site is Workers' World. Working Families Party, the WFP, founded in 1998 by a coalition of labor unions, was for many years a one-state party which operated only in New York. During 2006 and to 2008, the WFP expanded by launching new changes in a few other states. By 2008, WFP obtained access and nominated congressional candidates in New York, Connecticut, and Oregon. WFP essentially operated as a fusion party which co-nominated candidates of established parties. This fusion move allows WFP candidates who are co-nominates candidates of established policy. This fusion move allows WFP candidates who are almost exclusively Democrats to appear on second ballot line in the same election. Fusion gives voters a way to vote their values without splitting an election. Explains the WFP's website. The WFP exists to advance a pro-labor union political agenda focused almost entirely on liberal economic and employment issues. WFP endorsed Bernie Sanders for president in 2016 and endorsed Elizabeth Warren in 2020. And there are a few other parties, like the American Patriot Party, the Independent in the United States, the Canary Party, Conservative Party USA, Democratic Socialists of America, Progressive Labor Party, and the Revolutionary Communist Party, which hopefully I'll have time to tell you all about before I run out of time. Of course, this is all on politics1.com. The American Patriot Party of the Independent and United States. The APP, established in 2003, was founded on the basic principles set forth by our founding fathers that the federal government should only have the power set forth in the framework of the Constitution and all other power to delegate back to the states. Although everyone has their own opinions on all issues, we believe it is up to the states to decide what should and should not be mandated. Their own opinions on all issues banned or reputed. The AFP supports a crackdown of illegal immigration, making English fluency a requirement of U.S. citizenship, abolishing the IRS, woohoo! Repealing the federal income tax, imposing steeper taxes and tariffs on imported goods. Oh, and they want every county in the U.S. to become a separate state. They endorsed Congressman Ron Paul, Republican of Texas, for president in 2008, but did not nominate any candidate of their own to date. The Canary Party, founded in 2011, the unusual party is entirely focused upon the issue of healthcare, particularly as relates to autism. According to the party's official history, they were founded by a group party of children who were suffering from neurological and alternative disorders and who had been active for years in their efforts to get mainstream medicine to address the cancer causes of the and find treatments for the children's poor health. Faced the realization that while they had been earnest in their engagement of both the private medical industry and government public health officials, the medical establishment was not working in good faith with them. This party believes the pharmaceutical industry, alerted by government and medical professionals, have launched a massive and uncontrolled experiment on a generation of Americans and they're right, probably, in an unprecedented intervention in human immune development. This complex has succeeded in promoting an explosion in medical industry revenues and profits. This complex has succeeded in promoting an explosion in medical. Damn it, I keep repeating the same thing. It's accomplished, however, by an epidemic of death, disability, and chronic disease, much of which can be traced directly to these medical and clinical exposures. The single-issue party wants to address these concerns with federal government action. The Conservative Party USA, founded in 2009, this Conservative Party has yet to field any candidates. The party's mission statement reads as follows: to reestablish the limits and boundaries of government as founded in the Constitution. They claim they have formed as a new party. The GOP cannot be trusted. The Republican Party has constantly failed to uphold conservative principles. Trying to change the GOP is like drilling holes in water because they don't stand for anything except getting elected. This is how the party describes their agenda. The primary duty of the president is to protect America from his enemies, both foreign and domestic. Veterans must be honored and supported for their sacrifices. Marriage is between one man and one woman. Life begins at conception. Budget earmarks must be eliminated and fiscal discipline restored. Illegal immigration must be stopped at conception. Illegal immigration must be stopped. Healthcare must include meaningful tort reform. Note, this party has no affiliation with the well-established Conservative Party of New York. Democratic Socialist of America. The DSA is the official full member party of the Socialist International, which includes UK's Labour Party, the French Parti Socialiste, and really 140 other political parties around the globe. Unlike most other members of the Socialist International, the DSA never fields candidates for office. The DSA explains their mission as follows: building progressive movements for social change while establishing the openly socialist presence in American communities and policies. Thus, the USA is less like a traditional USA. The DSA is less like a traditional USA political party and much more like a political education and grassroots activist organization working within the Democratic Party. Primaries starting around 2013 in local races on a congressional race since the DSA 2018 supported Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, a Democrat in New York, and Rachel Tlaib, Democrat of Michigan, became the first DSA members elected to Congress. DSA, Social Democrats USA, and the Socialist Party USA each claim to be one true heir to the ideological legacy of Eugene Debs and Norman Thomas. The DSA disputes the Socialist Party's DSA claim to the arguing it to the modern era creation that simply approached the older name to the defunct party of the Dobbs Thornsey. DSA then named the Democratic Social Organization Committee, DSOC, split from the SDA-USA in 1972, and a rift over the Vietnam War. Democratic Social Organizer Committee, DSOC, split from the SDUSA in 1972, in a rift over the Vietnam War. The SDUSA supported the war and opposed McGovern for president. DSOC supported McGovern and opposed the war. Official DSA affiliates include Young Democrat Socialist, Democrat Left Magazine, and DSL Label Network. The Progressive Labor Party. The PLP is a New York-based militant Stalinist-style communist party dedicated to bringing about a worldwide armed communist revolution. The party was formed in 1961 by members of the CPUSA who felt the Soviet Union had betrayed communism and became revisionist and state capitalist. Founders also felt the CPUSA had adopted unforgivable reformist positions such as peaceful coexistence with the U.S., turning to electoral politics and hiding communist views behind a veneer of reform-oriented front groups. In the 1960s, the PLP heavily infiltrated radical students by a Democratic Society as Students for a Democratic Society, SDS group. Today, the PLP still abhors democracy, elections, freedom of nearly any sort, capitalism and religion, as dictator Joseph Stalin's Soviet Union as their role model. Because to denounce all elections as frauds, the PLP vows to never field any candidate for public office. For these guys, it's either armed victory or nothing at all. Lots and lots of online ideological articles were written in the typical dogmatic communist style, with titles like The Hoax of the 1932-33 Ukraine Famine, Fascism Grows in the Auto Industry, The Road to Revolution, articles in English, Spanish, Russian, German, etc. Revolutionary Communist Party USA. Sure are a lot of communist, socialist, fascist, Naziist third party. The RCP is based upon the teachings of the Chinese Communist Party chairman Mao Zedong, a form of rigid communism, otherwise of Leninist, Stalinist, Marxism. The party strongly denounces capitalism and advocates a Marxist-Leninist Maoist program as a battle plan for destroying the old and creating the new, and in kind a roadmap for how to rend the revolution. Even the RCP's logo is consistent with Libertarian revolutionary theme, i.e. note the red flag flying from a rifle bayonet. The RCP clearly advocates change through revolution and various populist front groups. Not elections. So don't look for the RCP candidates on the ballot. The RCP's most visible activity is running several branches of a store called Revolutionary Books. RCP Chairman Bob Avinkin and his writings also receive extensive coverage on the party's official site, as he has been the party leader since 1979. The Workers' Party USA. The WPUSA is a hardcore Marxist-Leninist political party founded in 1992 by the late Mitchell Thornton. Thorburn. The party was established to bring the working class out of the independent class force. The WPUSA shares much of the CPUSA's ideology, while the WPUSA has yet to field any candidates. The Chicago-based party prohibits a bi-weekly newspaper named The Worker and a quarterly theoretically journal named, not surprisingly, The Worker magazine. The WPUSA site features an extensive online archive of dogmatic scripts largely denouncing monopoly capitalism, Western imperialism, the USA, etc., and passing the working class and revolutionary policies. Thorburn's alt-internationalist news service asserting the paper's struggles against war and militarism is also affiliated with the WPUSA. Well, that's seriously all the third parties in, of course, the United States currently active. Remember, God is good all the time. God is good. Keep on gaming, like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'm trying to share our links of the sites. I'm trying to share those with my face, with not Facebook, because I'm not in Facebook, but with MeWe. So remember, God is good all the time. God is good. Jesus loves you. Jesus is God. Jesus is Lord. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and comment down below if you knew about any of these parties, or if you've ever supported any of these parties, or are a member or part of any of these political parties besides the major two parties, Democrat and Republican. And everybody have a great day, and now you know all about the third parties. You can look them up yourself at politics1.com. Have a great